Welcome and welcome back to the Ceiling Rant podcast. I'm your designated trauma buddy and hostess with the mostest, Champagne Renee, and I cannot tell you how good it feels to be back. I know some of you guys have been asking, where's the podcast? Girl, the podcast has been on hiatus because there's been a lot going on. There's been a lot going on in the world. There's been a lot going on in my life. There's a lot going on online, as I'm sure you're aware. And girl, I just did not have the capacity to maintain the consistency that the podcast deserves. And so I had to step back for a little bit and collect myself and reassess. And so we're back, and we shall be back on a consistent weekly basis. So we will be releasing new episodes every Monday, Scout's Honor. And I know this one is late. This one is getting to you late, but I just want to make this a quickie, if you don't mind, a quickie. And I wanted to chat with you a little bit about the space that we're in. I feel like as a collective online, and it really does seem like we are coming to the end of an era. I feel like more and more people are becoming more vocal about the amount of distress that they're experiencing just from being online so much. And I know it doesn't feel like, I feel like when we think about someone who's chronically online, we never think that whoever's talking is talking about us. But let me tell you, I will pick up my phone, and I've gotten in the habit of timing myself now. 10 minutes feels like a second when you're scrolling. You can really lose time. And with the way that we're seeing things progress, not only with AI, but also with, I think in general, our collective desensitization. We're becoming more desensitized to violence. Quite as it's kept, America has always been desensitized to violence. We have some of the most violent media. Anyway, girl, we're going to skip that because then I'm going to start talking about school shootings, and we don't need to go there. But my point is, it's becoming something that is feeling ominous to even the most happy-go-lucky social media user. The people who are online just looking at puppies are starting to get savage, okay? Your happy people are starting to feel like, hey, the internet doesn't feel the same. And a lot of people are echoing those sentiments. Now we're seeing the emergence of this hyper-realistic AI, videos being generated, AI artists being signed, AI actors that are starring in vertical videos. And I just think we're at almost like the tipping point, right? And it almost feels like we are feeling this pressure build up, and everybody's starting to feel it now. And there's actually no escaping from it, no matter where you try to turn your head. You don't want to focus on social media. You start saying, I'm going to take a break from social media. You start noticing your food prices, your grocery prices, and inflation. You don't want to focus on inflation. You start thinking about working your way up the corporate ladder and climbing up. Next thing you know, you're furloughed or laid off because there's budget cuts, right? And everybody's, I feel like, experiencing it. It almost feels like there's nowhere you can turn without feeling this sense of like everything's going wrong right now. And as someone who has felt this feeling many times in my life, and, if you are familiar with my story or you've read my book, you know that I've had quite a few rock bottoms. And rock bottom, the good thing about rock bottom is that there's literally nowhere else to go but up. Once you acknowledge this is the lowest I've ever been, this is as low as it can get, you know that now you're on your way, the ascent, making your way back up. Okay. And I think we just need to start working on being really intentional and gentle with ourselves about what we're doing right now. There's only so much you can fucking do when the world is burning. Okay. I know online, the September lock-in was trending. I've never circled back to follow up with the girls who said they were locking in all of September because, bitch, I did not lock in. I locked out, clocked out, sat down. I decided to have a soft temper because I was noticing a pattern of a lot of negative news, a lot of bad news online. All the breaking news was some new atrocity, some new, calamity. And the comment sections, there was more vitriol, even on places that are normally like more accepting and liberal and open and kind and, um, like TikTok, hateful, vitriol, just virtue signaling, just everyone is so incredibly angry. And if you're not angry, there's plenty of content that's generated that's being pushed to you to make you angry, to incite your anxiety or your fear or, you know, push you to be angry at one group or another. And I think that as a collective, we all need to start to recognize that online and where our physical bodies reside, the place that you are right now, are two very different spaces. I'm not saying online isn't real, right? Because, girl, we'll go down that rabbit hole. Then we'll start talking about dead internet theory. Actually, you know what? Let's start talking about it. So, the dead internet theory is basically this theory that there really are way less people that are active on the internet than we think there are. And my husband actually kind of sparked this thought in me, and then I realized it was like a whole theory. When we were talking about hate comments, I started to get a couple of hate comments, which, as you know, is like a common thing that happens when you're a content creator. You just got to cope with it. You get hate comments. But I, was having a conversation with my husband about a hate comment I received, and we were talking about people not presenting the as who they say they are online. And I was recently on set a couple weeks ago, and there was another girl on set who was talking to me. She was, quite a few years younger than me, and we were talking about Finstas. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've heard about Finstas before. Which, if you don't know, like I didn't know, it's a fake Instagram account. Like, people make their own like fake accounts so that they can do whatever. And so I was just like fascinated by this concept of, and anybody who's ever grew up watching Catfish knows that this isn't a new thing, right? But to me, it's fascinating because I was wondering, like, okay, so what's the motive behind creating a Finsta? And so she says, oh, well, you control, but basically it's just to kind of like look at your ex and like see what your ex is doing, or like your ex friends or whatever. Um, to leave like comments on things that you don't want people to see that you're commenting. But basically a different account where you can anonymously be someone else. But the ironic thing about it is the person that you're being on your fake account is more accurate to like representing who you really are than on your real public facing one. Anywho, I digress. But dead internet theory essentially is that there's no one really participating actively on the internet, at least not to the degree that we think there is. There are creators, and then there's fucking 80 to 90% of these people commenting are bots. And I didn't want to believe it, but then I noticed that a lot of the negative comments, a lot of the hate comments that I was getting, and a lot of the comments that I'd seen under other people's videos that were like hateful, inciting violence, intentionally misunderstanding the context of the videos, or just saying things that didn't quite make sense. I would go to their accounts after I found out about this dead internet theory. Whenever I saw a comment like that, I would click on the profile and go to that account, and there was no followers or no posts or no picture, or like bots. And then I kind of went down this other rabbit hole of people who do like bot farms, like the whole houses where there's just phones and programmed comments to comment on like targeting specific people's videos. And it doesn't seem like it's important, right? It seems like, okay, who cares? There's bots, right? What happens when what we see online starts to dictate how we feel about the world around us? What happens when I only see negative comments about, people who are on Ozempic or people who take GLP-1s, right? I only see negative comments, and those comments come from bots, but I don't know that. And so the rest of my life, in my day-to-day life, I am informed on the fact, what I think is a fact, what I perceive to be a fact, that people in general have a negative perception about GLP-1s. right? And this is how social media starts to kind of change your life and the way that you perceive life, because the way that you perceive what people are commenting on and seeing online dictates the way that you perceive the world around you and the people around you and the opinions that they may hold. And don't you think that that might start to inform the decisions that you make? Maybe the things that you choose to participate in? Maybe whether or not you interact with certain groups of people because you already are on the defense, already on defense of what you presume that or expect that they might say or think or feel based on the things that you've seen online. And I think that the the instinct is to say, no, that's not me. I'm not that influenced. I'm not being heavily influenced, but we are small, tiny, tiny, minute things. It may not be that grand of a scale about an opinion about one specific thing as a whole, but we notice the opinions and the comments of others, right? Not just the things that we see online. Okay. And so if those comments are made up of people who are not really real, then we are getting an inaccurate representation of the world around us, which I think is interesting because a lot of journalists would say to you, this is the way that elections are swayed. Bots, not just creators making videos, but I don't know if anybody else has experienced you're watching a video or you see a video that's very controversial, or maybe not even controversial. A lot of times people will say things like, oh, the comments are the funniest part. When you go to the comment sections, I ran to the comment sections. We read and look at other people's opinions and how other people are responding to the things that move us, whether it be something that made us laugh or cry or get angry or frustrated. It's because we have, as human beings, a sense of a longing, a desire for community, but we're building false community unintentionally, but we're building false community nonetheless. So when we see things like this new Sora app, which I don't know if you know about Sora, I just recently became privy to it. It's an app where the entire app is AI generated content. It's all fake content. It's no real content creators. Everybody who's on, like, who appears as a content creator or appears as a person on that app has either imported their face into whatever they typed into the prompt to create a video, or has signed away their rights to their image to be utilized on Sora. People like, who's that guy from YouTube? Jake Paul. Yes, Jake Paul. That he just went viral. He was going viral because people were like, oh my God, did you see that video of Jake Paul who's coming out saying that he's gay? And no, somebody just made that video using his face and his likeness because he had signed the rights over for his likeness for Sora. So anybody can use, basically anybody can make a video of him doing anything. Okay. And I think, are past the point of trying to have conversations about regulations with AI. We should have had conversations about regulating damn AI a long time ago. I mean, at this point, we're just playing catch up. We're waiting to see what horrific thing someone's going to come up with using AI so that we can double back and then go try to regulate that piece. Even Sora, which was just recently, this app just recently debuted, had to make modifications and pull back and roll back some of their terms and conditions because it was found that people were able to utilize videos that people had already posted, and other users had already posted. Other people could take their videos and manipulate and use, portions of their video up to and including their likeness, their faces in their own videos without their consent, without having to have the rights of the original owner say, like, yes or no, you can use my face that I posted on this app. And this is week 1 of this app existing. We don't have any guardrails, and we're trying desperately to build guardrails as, this entire road's already been, this AI road is already constructed, this AI bridge to wherever it's leading us. And it was built with no guardrails. And now we're trying to go back and say, hey, let's add them, because it turns out people are going to also do some very horrific things with AI. But alas, today's show is not about AI. It's not about the social media climate. It's not about the news. It's not about inflation. It's not about unemployment rates. It's not about ICE. This week's podcast is about spite. I want you to get a little bit spiteful. In the face of every single news headline that you see cross your social media feed or your TV screen, I want you to start finding joy out of spite. When the world is telling you to panic, joy is an act of defiance. Be defiant. Everything can go wrong, and you can still find some kind of way to be happy, to be content. Find your base. Find your ooey center, your ooey gooey center, okay? You have to keep finding a way back to that place. Otherwise, you're going to swing from one extreme to another constantly, and that's no good for your mental health. You will quickly degrade your mental health going from extreme highs to extreme lows. And with the way the economy is trending, I'm not fear-mongering, I'm not an economist, but we are hearing from a lot of economists and journalists that lows are coming, lower than where we are now. And that's nothing new, okay? Many of us survived 2008, but we didn't have social media the way that we have it now in 2008. We didn't have every news story. You can open your phone and find a news story from the Chum Bucket, Mississippi, some random city, town, county in the smallest part of Ohio, and the worst news out of Ohio. Bitch, you ain't never been to Ohio a day in your life, and now you're crying at your desk at work because somebody in Nantucket Palm, Ultra Sandisk, Ohio had somebody fell in a well, and now you're crying because we just have so much access. We have so much access, and that's a great thing. But in a lot of ways, it can be really debilitating because those are the news stories that get engagement. So those are the things that we are going to see day in and day out. So I'm going to challenge you. And like I said, this is going to be a short podcast episode this week, right? We're building our momentum back up. Eventually you'll be able to do a load of laundry and, fold it and put it away. Okay. I want you to do your laundry while you listen to this podcast next week because I'm going to aim for it to be that long. But what I want you to do is find ways to find something to look forward to. So if you've read my book, I'm going to tell you a story. You just know my story from social media or just things that I've shared, then you know that I had a pretty tumultuous childhood. Both of my parents went in and out of active addiction my entire childhood, and there wasn't a lot of, as you can imagine, a lot of stability. So I built stability and consistency in other places. And one place that I found stability and consistency was in reading. I was an avid reader as a child. I loved to read. You would always find me with my head buried in a book. And in my elementary school years, my mom worked as a cashier at Goodwill. And so I would get old books from Goodwill and I would devour them. I'm talking, I don't even know how many books a week. It truly was my form of escapism, right? It was my social media scroll before we had social media. And I had a very dear friend, Cynthia, in elementary school. And when I tell you, we would breeze through books. And our favorite book series was the Roswell series. The books, you may or may not be familiar with the show. I'm dating myself, I feel like. But it's a teen drama about aliens in Roswell, New Mexico. And Cynthia and I would meet on the bus and we would talk about whatever chapters we read, and we would be, we'd be reading the same book at the same time. And it was like our own little book club. And it was something that I could look forward to, whether my parents were in a good spot or in a good place, or whether they were in a bad place and maybe they had a really tumultuous night and I didn't get much sleep, or, if something horrible had been happening at home, I knew that I would get to sit next to Cynthia on the bus and we would talk about Roswell. And that little piece of joy kept me going a lot of days. And that continued throughout my adolescence. It was always finding a thing and finding a person. I'm real good for that. I'm real good for finding a thing and finding a person. Finding a thing and finding someone to be into that thing with me. And I think that's what a lot of us need. We need a thing and we need community outside of the online space. I think a lot of times the answer in front of us that we are closing our eyes and refusing to look at is that we need to return home to ourselves and find the things that made us happy and gave us joy and sparked creativity and curiosity as children. We need to revisit those things. It wasn't until I had a mental breakdown that I revisited my love for writing and reading. And had I not done that, I wouldn't have my book. My book wouldn't exist, right? And I likely would not exist online in the way that I exist online now. That had to happen for me to show up the way that I show up now. And so I'm saying this to say, we need to find a thing. I want you to find a thing every day. Find something to look forward to. If you follow me on Instagram, you know my stories I've been posting that I've been coloring a lot. I found this little coloring book with markers at, was it TJ Maxx? Girl, I think it was at TJ Maxx or something. It's like a Halloween, silly, like ghost pumpkin coloring book with like a marker set it came with. And it really grounds me to just sit in silence and just color. Make decisions on what color the ghost is going to be, what color the bat's going to be today. And just sit with that and move my mind without taking in anybody else's opinions or content or news or thoughts, or just sitting with myself. And I've been working on the This Is Fine cards. I've been posting a little bit here and there about them, but essentially they are cards that I've created that challenge you to either journal. It's like a journal prompt is your truth side. And the dare side is something that will help you with a little bit of self-exploration. So learning a little bit more about yourself, maybe stepping outside of your comfort zone. And you have to do one or the other. Do the hard journal prompt or do the dare. And that's something that really did help me in my healing journey is writing a lot, purging a lot of stuff through my writing, and learning about myself, deciding that I was a person worth knowing again, instead of whoever I decided that I was going to be because that's who people wanted me to be. Like going back and meeting myself, discovering who I am and who I've been all along. That part of healing. And it doesn't have to be like some hard, serious task. A lot of times it was like, I'm going to go to a movie. I'm going to go to the thrift store and just buy something ridiculous that has no utility. I'm not going to go buy a work shirt. I'm not going to go buy the kids a jacket. I'm not going to go buy, whatever. I'm going to go buy something silly. I bought Now CDs. If I'm dating myself again. Those CDs back in the day, back in my day, the infomercials. Now that's what I call music. I bought like 6 Now CDs and a boombox. Why? Because I just wanted to. Because I remember those songs. I remember those songs were the soundtrack of my childhood. And granted, girl, I ain't had the best childhood, but some of those moments, some of those songs make me happy. And so I just bought them. Yeah, I can listen to them on Spotify, but I want to own the CD. It's been a long time since I held a CD in my hands. Healing doesn't always have to look like crying, wallowing in sorrow. Healing can also look like joy. It gets to look like joy, too. I think the PR team for Healing Girl needs a revamp. Laughter is healing. Dancing, writing, being silly. All of that is healing because you deserve to experience those things as much as you deserve, and you have the right to cry and break down over all the fucked up shit that's happened to you. You also have the right to dance in the sun and to be happy and to smile and laugh until your stomach hurts and wear whatever outfit you want to wear and look fly as fuck and look like a bad bitch and go out and do whatever it is that you want to do. You have that right too. Make sure you exercise that free will. That will heal a part of you too. So I hope you do that. And girl, that's my message for this podcast episode. It's a short one. It's a short one. Next week will be longer. So pile up that laundry that's sitting in that chair over there in the corner that you need to go ahead and take care of. We're going to address that next week. Don't worry about it. We'll have a longer episode next week. But I just want to challenge you every day. Find a thing. It can be you got your favorite coffee creamer, girl. It could be, ooh, pumpkin spice coffee creamer is back. Every morning when you wake up, you're looking forward to that coffee. And make it, romanticize it. Make it the most beautiful experience. Tell your kids, shut your ass up, and then go make your coffee and then sit in silence in your coffee, drinking your coffee, sipping your coffee, pretending like you're on a balcony in a beautiful hotel in Paris or something, drinking your pumpkin spice espresso. Whatever it is, okay? Take that moment every day, doing something. Find that moment in something every single day. You have to have it. You need that. You need that more than you need to scroll on social media. I promise you. You need that. That is going to keep you sane. That is going to keep you in balanced and aligned, and that's what you need. Find a thing. And keep that thing really dear. Don't let anything get between you and that thing. That is how we survive hard times. We stay joyous anyway. We find the joy anyway.